I was asked to talk about National Eating Disorder Awareness Week. And I love this word awareness because awareness is everything. Maybe you've never had to struggle with your weight, or you've not had a dysfunctional relationship with food. But what I want to talk to you about today is to ask you to think about blind spots. So I'm going to share my story about the issues I had with weight and with blind spots. And as I share, I want you to be attentive to something that may be hidden inside of you that maybe you have not been aware of. What I love about one of the new features on the newer cars is that they have this little flashing light that will tell you if there's something you can't see, if someone's behind you or there's another car that's coming up. We have that same little blinking light, and it's called our still small voice that's within us. It's our true essence. It's our soul, and it speaks to us. And what happens though is, even though that blinking light can get dimmed and our still small voice can be silenced because of all the outside voices and all the outside influences that are telling us what to be, what to do, and what to have. So I wrote a book, and it's called The Freedom to Eat, 10 Secrets for Lasting Weight Loss and Inner Peace. And on the left is a picture of me throwing away a scale. And that is secret number 3, which is throw away the scale and to let go of judgments. And for me, the scale was my judge and jury. If I had gained some weight, I would weigh every morning. Gaining weight would set me up to have a bad day. If I stayed the same, I still might have a bad day because I was on so many restricted diets, and I'd be doing the best I could. And if I was making no progress, and even if I had a loss that day, I might go out and celebrate eating one of those forbidden foods that would also send me depressed, because then I could gain that weight back again. So in my bio, the organizer said that I've been known for my sense of humor. So how can you think that an eating disorder would be humorous at all? Well, I have a couple cartoons that I wanted to share with you, because if you have tried to lose weight before and you continue to gain it back, I'm sure that you can relate to these. And the first one is a woman who goes to a fortune teller, and she says, if it says I'm gaining all my weight back, then I'm headed right for a double fudge sundae when we're done. When I was speaking in front of folks and they would come up to speak to me afterwards, I would have several women that would come up and they would say, well, I'm not really overweight, but I still have 5 or 10 pounds that I'm trying to lose. And I would frankly look at them rather astonished that they had an ounce to lose. But for me, that just shows of that wanting to be perfect. And so this cartoon illustrates that quite well. That says, what did you say, honey? I do not have a poor self-image. And I can't tell you how many times I looked in the mirror and seeing that reflection stare back at me. So when I had the opportunity to pitch my Freedom to Eat book before 6 literary agents, I would introduce myself and then I would say, I've lost over 500 pounds. And the women would look at me kind of astonished and happy and congratulate me. The men would look at me a little skeptical. And then I would tell them it was the same 30 pounds. It's a pretty good punchline unless you have struggled with your weight and to keep it off. For 3 decades, I struggled with my weight. And the reason that I have freedom in the title of my book is that I'm truly free. I'm free from constantly thinking about what I was going to eat or not going to eat. I'm free from the dysfunctional relationship I had with food. I'm free from the obsessive thoughts about counting every calorie and carb and protein. I was a walking calculator, and just never being successful in maintaining the weight that I had lost and always feeling like a failure. So I've been at my weight now, the same weight for 17 years, the same weight I lied about on my driver's license. I'm actually 5 pounds below that weight, but it has been freeing for me. So my weight issues started when I was 12 years old. And unfortunately, I did not live in the time when beauty was considered to look like this as far as women being beautiful. Unfortunately, I lived in a time where beauty looked like this. And so at 12 years old, I started to be chubby, and my mother had struggled with her weight too. So then the drastic diets started. There was the Atkins diet, which I thought you could really eat all the pork rinds you wanted. I gained 5 pounds on that one. Then there was Scarsdale and Weight Watchers. And the older I got, I would join all the groups like Nutrisystem and Jenny Craig. There's a line from a beautiful hymn called Amazing Grace. And it's, I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. There were 2 instances I recall where I was blind, and one was when I was 30 years old. I remember I was standing at the kitchen counter and I was eating ice cream out of the carton, and my arms were tucked in really tight, like I was trying to be invisible or something. And I heard this laughter from behind me, and it was my husband. And he wasn't being mean or critical. He was just laughing because it was really funny. And I started laughing too. But instead of taking away from that situation that it was okay to have ice cream, I vowed that I would never get caught again. And the second instance was when I was in my 40s. I had come home early from work, and during that time the Oprah show was on and no one was home, which was unusual. And I thought I would just settle down and have a glass of wine and a little cheese and crackers and some fruit. I didn't have just one glass of wine. I drank the entire bottle. And what I did was I took the empty bottle and I shoved it into the garbage can, and I made sure it was covered up. And I immediately went to the grocery store and I bought another bottle to replace that one so it wouldn't be missed. It never came to my awareness that there was something wrong with this picture. Instead, I just berated myself that it was a lack of discipline. So how did I get to this place of lasting weight loss and inner peace? Well, one day I was having a voice lesson with my choir director, and he suddenly stopped. He spun around on the piano bench. He planted his feet on the floor, and he looked me in the eye and he barked at me and said, "Why won't you let go?" That was it. That's all it took. I woke up. I felt like somebody had thrown a bucket of ice water in my face. Now, he was talking about my voice, not my life, but I knew why I wasn't letting go. I was in a broken marriage. I felt like my soul was dying. I was in a job that was sucking the life out of me. In 3 words, I was lost. So I started to confide in a coworker, and I had told her that when I was young, my father was an alcoholic. He was bipolar, and he would have these rages. I talked about my marriage being toxic and my job being toxic. And she asked me if I had ever heard of codependency. And I said no. And she said, you need to buy a book called Codependent No More. So I went to the bookstore and I was thumbing through the pages and I thought, oh my gosh, this is me. And I brought it home and I think I highlighted like 80% of the book. But what I realized was the effect that my father's issues had had on my life. I thought it was his problem, not my problem. And I looked at how our family dealt with that and we just didn't. We stuffed down the pain and the hurt and the abandonment and any feelings that I had. And those affected all the relationships in my life. And it profoundly affected my relationship with God, because God to me at that time was an equally angry Heavenly Father. So I left the toxic marriage, I left the job, I left my dream home, I left everything that I had strived for on the outside, and I went inward to heal and to finally find my still small voice and what the desires of my true heart had been that I had just not pursued. I lost the physical, emotional, and spiritual weight that I carried. And that's where I am with having lasting weight loss and inner peace. I now have a healthy relationship with food. Food is pleasurable. It's a source of nourishment for me. I don't have a dysfunctional relationship with food anymore. It's not a replacement for love, comfort, or even a destructive tool to reinforce the unworthiness that I used to feel. An eating disorder is an addiction. But when we think of addictions, we also think of stereotypical addictions like a heroin user or someone addicted to opioids or an alcoholic. But addictions are more subtle than that. There's addicted to distractions, social media, watching Netflix, surfing the internet, comparing yourself to others, your accomplishments or your lack of accomplishments. And what it does is that it causes you to drift, and it causes you not to show up in the world in your brilliance of who you were created to be. For me, I stuffed down my pain with food, alcohol, accomplishments, and busyness. Those were my drugs of choice. I used those to numb out. So now I've gotten in touch with my still small voice and God's voice within me that leads me and guides me and brings me to fulfill the desires of my heart. So I have a question to ask of you. And that is to reflect and to ask yourself if there is some kind of anxiety or some kind of stirrings inside of you, something that's nagging you, something that gives you unrest from within. I hope that you'll explore that and that you would ask yourself if there is something I am blind to that I cannot see. At first, it might be very painful to see it, but in the end, you will set yourself free. So I have the first two chapters from my book, The Freedom to Eat, 10 Secrets for Lasting Weight Loss and Inner Peace, available for free. And if you are struggling with your weight, and that weight can be physical, emotional, and spiritual, I hope that you will go over to JackieTrautman.com/freedom and get those 2 chapters to see if these can help you find freedom, like these 10 secrets have helped me. So thank you so much for the opportunity for me to share my story with you. And I hope that you will reflect on this to see if there's any blind spots that you have in your life. Thank you.